kindergarten through like, those elementary school years, I thought that foreign language was the absolute most boring thing ever. Like you'd be in like the encore Spanish class and you would be counting to five every time you had it. If you were lucky, sometimes you would get to 10. It wasn't until about seventh or eighth grade that I realized that foreign language is just way more than counting to 10. It is a gateway to communication, and it is something that is so crucial to the ever-expanding global community. So I thought it would be interesting to do my project on ESL, or English as a Second Language Education, because I had had the chance to experience foreign language coming at me knowing English already, and I wanted to see the process of English language acquisition itself. Oops. So my mentor over here is on your guys' left. She was my mentor for my internship. Her name is Miss Catherine Williams. For my presentation, I'm going to call her Miss Dean because she got married at the end of my internship, so that's just going to confuse me. On your guys' right over here, you have Miss Gail Von Kieserling. She was my mentor for my community service. So for my internship, I worked with Miss Dean at the Fluvanna County Middle School and the Carysbrook building. For the first few days of my internship, I got to just shadow her, meaning I got to witness her as she worked with different students, and I got to witness her interaction and the different processes that she carried out during her instruction. During my shadowing period, she taught me about two different types of ESL instruction. There was push-in and pull-out instruction. So push-in would be where me and Miss Dean would follow a student into the classroom, and they would work with her on things that pertain to their core classes, so assignments that they had already been given in these core classes. So if there was math, for example, she would work on them and say, hey, so when you're doing math, this here, this word and, can also mean the same thing as multiplied by. So she would work on basic core vocabulary with them in the push-in instruction. For pull-out instruction, she would actually take the students out of the classroom and into a separate speech room and work with them on different things that would also help them improve their proficiency in their core classes. So she would work with them on like crucial vocabulary for English, different math terms, different science terms that they needed to know, and she would work on them with root words as well in order to increase their comprehension in the future. For the second portion of my internship, Ms. Dean actually allowed me to have interaction with the students. So I would like go up to the board and I would actually try to find different ways in order to enhance their understanding of the separate words and everything else that they were learning to help increase their English proficiency. It was really interesting because I had the pleasure to meet an Italian boy named Biagio. He had first moved from Italy, I think about a week before I met him. And the day that I met him, all he would really say to me was coisa, coisa, which means what in Italian. And it was really interesting to me because over the course of my internship, the second time I met him, he'd improved drastically. And he actually, said to me, wow, Portuguese like Cristiano Ronaldo. And he kind of had like a little fanboy moment. And then the third time I met him was actually the last day of my internship. And it was really cool to me because I got to witness his like growth from the comprehension of zero English to being able to understand me and understand Miss Dean and have a full-on conversation. Now, the last day before I left, Biagio, he actually spoke to me, and he was like, so when should I watch Real Madrid's next game? What channel is it on? And he was able to just talk to me like that for like 5 minutes and like help me up before I left. It was great. Also, during this portion of my internship, I learned about the WIDA standards of English proficiency, which are what ESL teachers follow in order to gauge English proficiency. Now, there are 5 different languages according to the WIDA standards. There's the language of English, the language of social studies, the language of science, of math, and conversational language. Now, I didn't realize this when I went in to shadow Ms. Dean, that there are 5 different skill levels that they need to be proficient in before you move up in a level of fluency. Now, it made me think differently about my own language acquisition because I was like, wow, I could probably go out on the street with you and talk to you about like the store or the food that's good over there and say like Portuguese. But I can't just walk up to you and start having a conversation with you about basic biology. So in a classroom setting, I would not be considered fluent. And that really opened my eyes to how much work that these kids have to put in order to even be considered like proficient in the English language. So it made me think differently about myself as well. And unfortunately, as you see in this picture, I was not able to get actual pictures because Miss Dean's schedule fluctuates very, very much based upon what students are available during what class, and it's basically based around the core teachers and their availability as well. So I was not able to contact which students I would be able to take photos of, because they would not let me take pictures unless I had already had photo release forms from the profession. So for my community service, I worked with Ms. Gail Wonke-Serling at the Fluvanna County School Board Administration building. With Ms. Gail, I was able to work with the Families Learning Together program. It's a Fluvanna County block grant program. So with Ms. Gail, I got to work with adult learners of the English language, and I went every Wednesday. And Wednesdays happened to be the day that the adult students would be allowed to bring their children. So I really enjoyed my time at the Families Learning Together program to work with adult learners, but I also got to work with the student learners as well, who were their children from the ages of like 1 to 4, because they obviously weren't in school. Now, for the adult learners, I would mainly translate words from Miss Gail, and I would help with phrasing of different sentences. I would try to explain things in Spanish if she wasn't able to explain them in English. So I mainly would do things like, hey Maddie, what does desesperada mean in English? And I'd be like, oh, like desperate or anxious. And for their kids, when I wasn't working with the adults, I got to interact with them. And it was really cool because it not only improved their English, but it also improved my Spanish. So they would be saying something to me in like Spanish, and I would respond in English, and they would ask me to explain it to them in Spanish, and then we would repeat it. And it got to the point where sometimes the kids would mess around with me, and they'd be like, I knew that word in English, I was just messing with you. So these are pictures from one of the Families Learning Together dinners that I went to. They would be held the third Wednesday of every month. In the pictures, you can see, like, she is holding a book, he is holding a book. The goal of the Families Learning Together dinners that I was allowed to attend graciously were to encourage English language communication among parents and families. So I was glad to be able to witness this. It's mainly meant to facilitate interaction between families, so it was social entirely. And at the end of the dinner, Miss Gail would hand out books, as you see in the two pictures, and she would encourage the adults to go home and read to their children, because the books would not only increase the language proficiency of the children, but would also increase the confidence of the adult learners as they read more and more to their children. And they're holding teddy bears in this picture, because it's the last dinner before Christmas, so I bought them all teddy bears. So for my research topic, I spoke about the various factors impacting language acquisition. So I mainly spoke about the topic of age and its impact on language acquisition, because as you guys can see, age was a large portion of what I got to witness through my internship. I got to witness the difference between, a 4th grader and like a 5th grader, and it was different. Or like, a 5th grader and an adult learner, or an adult learner and their child. The main thing that I found through my research is there's always that, common belief that a 3-year-old might learn a language better than an adult. Something interesting that I learned through my research was actually that the problem with a 25-year-old learning a new language is not that the 25-year-old cannot learn a new language or that they cannot process it, but that they've already learned the morphological and syntax patterns of their first language. And when you're 3, sounds are sounds. You're not going to just comprehend them immediately. So you combine them, but eventually they come out to be 2 separate languages. When you're 25 years old, you have an accent when you speak another language, because you already know the phonological patterns that exist in your first language. So it's not necessarily that when you're 25 years old, you do not have the capacity. It's just that it's harder for you to sound like you're a native speaker. So my advice to any upcoming Blue Ridge senior would be to go with your gut. And I know that sounds really simple. You're like, why would I do something I don't like for my internship? Well, you never know. You might go with something you don't want to do because it seems safe, or because it seems like something that you'll just be able to do easily. But if you're passionate about it, you'll find a way to do it. Even if you want to intern as like a tattoo artist, like, go do that. Like, just saying. You might find out you hate it, or you might find out that it's your passion and that's what you want to do. And throughout this internship, I found out that this internship is really meant to help you and help you define your future. So my advice would be to go with your gut and do what you want. And also don't procrastinate. As far as my future plans, I had planned to attend the University of New Mexico in the fall and major in the Spanish and Portuguese program that they offer there.
Thank you very much. So, do you have any questions? You said you worked with the two boys. They were Italian, right?
So in the picture,
Yeah.
the two boys, they were not Italian.
Oh, okay.
One of the boys was from Mexico, and one of the boys was from El Salvador.
Okay, so you worked with only Spanish.
No, I also worked with Italians,
I
and I got to work with one boy from Holland.
All right, did you pick up any Italian yourself?
I can say Anka, I can say Vida, and I can say I'm 13 years old. So
Okay.
io sono ancora di Chile, if you're wondering.
So with your community service, we're working with families learning together.
Yes, ma'am.
How many students? Did they speak any English?
So a few of them spoke like very good English, and they were just looking to improve like their written skill because their oral skill was like very good. But as far as like writing it down, they could not do it. So a lot of them were there for that. But I actually at one of the dinners I asked to sit next to a woman, and she was like, no inglés. So I was like, ¿puedo sentarme aquí? And she was like, la gringa habla español. So that was pretty great. But yeah, some of them did not speak English.
So you're going to major in Spanish and Portuguese.
Yes, ma'am. University of New Mexico.
Okay, what are you planning to do with that?
I hope to end up teaching the English language abroad in Spanish and Portuguese speaking countries. Because I, like as I said at the beginning of my presentation, communication is something that I find very important. So I think that I would like to provide the opportunity for the ability to communicate to as many people. Anybody? Yes, Mr. Bates.
So going through the ESL program and seeing what you saw there, any suggested improvements? Do you feel like the county could do better?
I was only able to go like 4 or 5 times, but I feel like it's really hard to be proficient in multiple languages. Like Miss Dean, the instructor that I worked with, she was very proficient in Spanish, but I think that maybe if we had another teacher who knew like another language would be helpful. But as far as the ESL program itself, I think that it does what it can, and I would just like to see, more specialization.